Hey, I'm Rob Adler, and welcome to Understanding Upstate. It's the podcast dedicated to exploring what makes upstate New York such a unique place. Each week, my co-host Jim Search and I dive into a new upstate topic to better understand what's up upstate. And today, we are talking about Binghamton's Masonic Temple.
Yes.
And it is...
Oh my gosh.
It is quite the building. And we're going to talk a little bit about Freemason history in upstate New York. I think in general, it's to describe the building itself. If the Ghostbusters opened a Southern Tier franchise, this would be their headquarters.
Yes,
the vibe.
I feel for those are thousands of speedy freaks out there, millions. I would even say millions of speedy freaks out there.
More speedy freaks than there are Freemasons themselves.
That's right, man. So for those speedy freaks out there who have never been or have seen the Masonic Temple in Binghamton, I feel like that's a really great description of if the Ghostbusters opened a Binghamton location, because ghosts are so prevalent in the Binghamton world.
We have an episode on it, Jim.
Yeah.
Might be episode 2 or 3.
That's right, man. So this would make sense. But yes, architecturally, it's like a stone building with 6 gigantic columns in the front and 2 just giant wooden doors. It's a pretty I would say imposing building.
I was literally going to just say imposing.
And that's why we are a team.
That's true. But before we jump headfirst into this this topic, I've got a little surprise for you today.
Oh man.
But it does relate to the region we're in, or the region we're going to be discussing today. Are you prepared? It's kind of a show and tell. So
Okay.
I'm going to share something with you. And since this is pretty strictly an audio medium, you're going to have to describe what you're seeing. Are you prepared?
As I'll ever be.
Here we go, Jim. This is...
Oh my gosh. What is it?
A book I have purchased.
Yeah. So this is, for, again, since you can only hear us and can't see anything, it is a book titled Southern Tier Volume 2 by Arch.
Volume 2, implying there is another volume.
There's a road sign that has a lot of the major cities in upstate New York, specifically the Southern Tier: Elmira, Horseheads, Owego, Waverly.
There's some Pennsylvania in there too.
When you're talking about the Southern Tier, you can kind of scoop in some part of PA, because
similar region.
Binghamton is you could walk to Pennsylvania. It's maybe
I think
5
that's
miles.
what this guy on the cover's doing.
Yeah, there's also I'll hold that up there. I want to tell the streets what's going on here. So we got I'll kick it from the top. We have Elmira, Horseheads, Owego.
I was delighted to learn that there's a town called Horseheads. They have the explanation of that name in this very book.
Well, shit, there it is, man. I'm familiar with that. Then Sayre, PA, Athens, PA, Binghamton is in there, Endicott.
Jim, there's 3 chapters on Binghamton in this book alone.
Goddamn right there. Should be 5. Binghamton, Endicott, Johnson City, and Deposit. And there's a kid on the front who, he looks like one of those, old paintings that you'd see in, a diner.
Sure. Your Norman Rockwell-esque, picturesque Americana. It, in fact, is inspired by one Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, I was going to say
there's a chapter about how Mark Twain spent some time. I think he met his wife in upstate New York, or she was from upstate New York. She might have been a bit younger than him.
That would make sense.
But not as the age gap is not as disparaging as it was in our previous episode where we reviewed The Rewrite.
Yes, where the sexual predator Hugh Grant's character was dating a woman 25 years younger. Anyway, you guys remember that episode, and if you haven't, go back and listen to it. It's great. But yeah, that book's what like so.
Okay, so let me give you the breakdown of what this book is.
Sure, yeah.
Jim, this is one of at least 20 books that this author Arch Merrill has written on upstate New York.
Really? Who is this dude? I've never fucking heard of this man.
He is referred to as the poet laureate of upstate New York.
Real? Okay.
Yes.
Strong title.
Yes. I found this book on eBay, of course.
Sure.
I will sometimes when I'm looking for like episode ideas, I'll just go to eBay and plug in Upstate to see what pops up, because I found like you'll get some good results that you wouldn't in Google or a traditional like search engine,
right?
Because if you put in Upstate, you're going to get a lot of universities, you're going to get towns, you're going to get blogs, right? Like you have to do a lot of digging,
right?
And I found things like this book. I found that Prince has an album called Upstate.
Really?
So it's like a live album that he recorded. Or was recorded.
Where does it say? Where upstate?
I can't remember. It was either Rochester or Syracuse. I want to say.
Love it.
Again, like that never popped up, right? That's going to be hit 3,000 or something in Google. And I kept seeing a bunch of books by this guy. I was like, well, what the hell's the deal here?
Right.
So I started reading a little bit more about him. And each of the books on the like the dust jacket or the flap, it says something to the effect of, this is Arch Merrill's 13th regional book.
Yo, man.
And it says that 20 times.
Yeah, just to remind you. Just to make sure you won't forget it.
I'm just going to read some titles of the books.
Oh, Jesus.
Because they're great. One's Upstate Echoes, Unusual Stories Embracing the Whole of Western and Northern New York State. I will be purchasing that book. Don't worry. The Land of the Senecas, just going into different Native American histories. This is perhaps my favorite title, Slim Fingers Beckon.
Well, all right.
It's the story of the Finger Lakes.
Okay.
If you couldn't tell.
Yeah.
It's just some real... Again, he's the poet laureate of upstate New York. What else are you going to expect?
Right.
This particular edition is from 1953, and as you can expect... anything from 1953, it has a high chance of being slightly racist. And there's a little bit of that in here for sure.
I would think so, man.
As I am thumbing through right now, I'm seeing words I'd rather not. So this will be a source of some information for future episodes. Okay. And basically I think the reason he was able to amass 20 books is because he was a journalist. I'm forgetting in which town, but in upstate New York, I think in Rochester. And basically each book is a compilation of like different articles and stuff that he wrote. And this is one of those volumes.
Man, well, yeah, I'm kind of intrigued what racist shit Arch has to say.
It's more the terms that were colloquially used to describe people that weren't white.
Sure, like I'm sure it's like colored and like Injun and like fucking horrible shit like that. Because that was 1953, and
yep. And worse. I'll say it's worse.
Okay. I believe it. Again, I'm sure way worse because that is the sign of the times.
Indeed.
Well, Arch, I hope you did some DEI and sensitivity training in the afterlife and saw that perhaps you were wrong in how you address those people.
Well, that seems like a good point to pivot into our main topic. Shall we move on?
Yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Let's talk about the Masonic Temple.
Yeah.
I think, right, it's important to kind of establish what is a Masonic Temple.
what is a Freemason? And I'll be honest, Jim, everything up until 8 a.m. this morning, everything I knew about the Freemasons, I learned in the hit film National Treasure, starring Nicolas Cage.
And I would say a pitch perfect way of learning who they are. I think to your point, though, I think it's probably better to, before you get to a Masonic temple, who are the Freemasons, right?
Yeah.
So this is as per the wonderful world of Wikipedia. Obviously, there's millions and millions of articles and resources, but I will give you what Wikipedia has to say.
Jim, so that means I should be prepared to be here for about 29 hours. It's one of the deepest Wikipedia pages I've ever seen. I clicked on it, I was like, I should familiarize myself with the general history. I spent about 1 minute on there, just like,
yeah.
Nicolas Cage did enough for me. I'm good.
And I think also, yeah, like that, I feel like that film will give you what you need for what we're about to talk about if you're hell-bent on learning more. But we're, I think, in the interest of the show, just going to give you like a quick snapshot of what's happening here, right? So, Freemasonry or Masonry refers to the fraternal organizations that trace their origins to the local guilds of stonemasons that, from the end of the 14th century, regulated the qualifications of stonemasons and their interactions with authorities and clients. So, in layman's terms, they're people who built shit out of stone and were the union, it feels like, that regulated who and how things are getting built, etc. Right?
Yeah, it's back in the time of like guilds, and there was a lot of skilled trades, skilled labor had a group like this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You had to be an apprentice. You had to like work your way through the organization to like get the official stamp saying you're like legally approved to work in this trade, right?
Right, exactly. So it's kind of like the precursor to a union, if you will. Mm-hmm. So modern Masonry broadly consists of two main recognition groups: regular Freemasonry, which insists that a volume of scripture be open in a working lodge, which we'll talk about, that every member professes belief in a supreme being, that no women be admitted, sorry ladies, I can't be a Freemason, and that the discussion of religion and politics do not take place within the lodge. That sounds like a recipe for some awful things to be said, if I'm going to be frank.
I was going to say, like, anytime there's a group of exclusively dudes hanging out, I immediately, it's like, I don't know, guys. I'm going to go hang out by myself.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And then when you tack on, like, we don't talk about religion or politics, it's like, well, now I know how you feel.
Yeah.
You know what? I get it. So that's one group. Now, the other group, the Continental Freemasonry, consists of jurisdictions that have removed some or all of these restrictions. So there seems to be another group out there that little more relaxed on, I'm assuming, religion and politics.
Not the women, though. Not the women. I think maybe The Rewrite might be their favorite film.
That would track. Now, now that we've established who they are, where do they hang out? I'll tell you. A Masonic temple or a Masonic hall within Freemasonry is the room or edifice where a Masonic lodge meets. Masonic temple may also refer to the abstract spiritual goal and the conceptual ritualistic space of a meeting. Now, in this case, it is the more tangible building or edifice, if you will, which in Binghamton, New York, the Masonic Temple is located on the west side, the best side.
No argument there.
Yeah, no. Maybe there might be a little bias from me personally as a west sider myself. But The Masonic Temple is located on the west side at 66 Main Street. And as we said before, it is enormous. It is 60,000 square feet.
5 floors. It's huge.
It's enormous.
And it's abandoned. It's currently abandoned, and it's an impressive structure.
It is. It honestly is. It, like, architecturally, it's fucking amazing.
When we were in Binghamton shooting our documentary, Understanding Upstate.
That's right, baby.
Clearly, we're great at coming up with names for things. We drove by it, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's nothing else like it around. Like, it's a pretty residential area, right? I think there's maybe a gas station nearby, but like, there's no other super tall buildings or anything. Like, it is a fixture of the block that it is on.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, around the Masonic Temple, there is a gas station across the street. Mm-hmm. You are correct. Next door to it was a CVS, but that's closed. Right. And then if you go like kind of like, cause it's right on Main Street, and then the cross street there is Murray. So if you go down Murray, yeah, it's all houses, and they're all just like regular, like freestanding, maybe 2, maybe 3 stories. There might be like a larger apartment building a little bit deeper into the block. Mm-hmm.
It's in a interesting part of town, in that like these temples, usually like when you see one, they're in like the downtown part of a city, right?
Yeah.
So, and this is a little bit removed from that.
Yeah, it's probably like, if I shooting from the hip here, I'd say it's probably like, I don't know, 5 minutes from downtown Binghamton. So like maybe like a 15-minute walk, 10-minute walk. Yeah. So a little bit, as you're saying, it's a little bit removed.
And I'll say, if anyone's curious to see what it looks like, I definitely recommend you look at pictures of this place.
Yeah, for sure.
It's crazy. But if you go to Google and just type in like Binghamton Masonic Lodge, you're going to see some pictures. Again, it's abandoned, so you're not going to see official pictures, but what you will see are pictures of incriminating pictures of people trespassing with themselves in the picture.
Right.
Just like standing on the roof. Jim, I haven't seen such beautiful sweeping views of Binghamton since I watched The Rewrite. But seriously, like, it's they were trespassing on a beautiful fall day. You can see these beautiful like valley shots of Binghamton with the autumnal colors.
Yeah.
Beautiful view, because again, there's like, it's not downtown, so it's like you can get a sense of just how large this building is for the part of town it's in, but also just in general how big it is. And then if you want to see inside of it, Jim, again, people in Binghamton don't give a fuck about incriminating themselves.
Not
There's a
so
great
much.
YouTube video from 2013 where a group of friends are breaking and entering into the building, and I can't understate how incriminating it is. The very first thing that you hear is, "Hey man, do you want to explain what we're doing?" And the guy goes, "Oh, we're breaking into the Freemasons Temple." Meanwhile, superimposed on his face is text that says, "Binghamton, February 28th, 2013. Just so there's no question about it. They're absolutely breaking and entering. Jim, do you know how they break in?
I'm very curious about this. No, I have an idea, but I think there's like a side door maybe that like...
No, I think they go for the main door, because it's that like the beautiful wooden doors that are like chain... padlock and chained, and they grab the post from a street sign. How do I know it's a post from a street sign? Because they put text explaining that they've also vandalized a street sign. They grab it, they put it in the chain and just keep twisting it on this like
no fucking
half-inch thick chain, bust it open. It's like 8 minutes of them walking through. It's pretty grainy footage, but again, it gives you a sense of the state of the inside of this building. And the video ends with a dude calling everyone over to look at the pigeon he's caught, and then they all pet it. It's a wild ride.
The fuck is this, man? Like,
it's Binghamton 2013.
Oh God,
that's what it is. Everyone's maybe a little bit drunk. One guy almost falls out of a window. It's great. It's great.
Yo, I know exactly what I'm going to watch after we get off from this, because this sounds fucking incredible. This is, and like, again, we can't understate how massive this place is. Like, I mean, there's a 830 seat first floor theater in this building.
It used to host the Tri-City Opera.
That's right. Ballets and other community performances, which...
There is I believe there's a bowling alley in the basement. Or used to be.
I vaguely remember my sister having like a dance recital at the Masonic Temple, like in that theater. So like, again, this is like very much like hazy memory, but like it was a gigantic space. There's a ballroom on the second floor, banquets and billiard rooms. And then on the top floor, we're devoted to like the lodge rooms. Now, this place is like the stuff of urban legend, like in Binghamton.
How old? I think it was finished in like 22 or 23.
Yeah. So like a little over a year over 100 years old, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, this place is like the stuff of urban legend. Like, you know, there's so many like, I remember just like haunted stories of that place growing up. And like when you were saying like these motherfuckers broke into that building, I'm like, you cannot pay me enough money to go in there, dude. Like that place is fucking terrifying.
Even in 2013, like it was in rough shape just from the video. Like the whole thing is pretty much gutted. There's gotta be mold growing on top of mold. Like it looks pretty sketchy. And I've been in some like abandoned structures in my time. Like this is, I wouldn't go in there, man. It looks,
nope.
It looks real rough. And that reminds me, there's one picture from the roof where it looks like there's a pool. It looks like there's a pool on top. Jim, there's no pool. It's impending water damage.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like
just sitting water. It's not good.
I couldn't imagine these kids just fucking running up in there, but also
they were not kids. They were like 30.
All right. I can't imagine these alleged adults, right? We're going to put adult on paper, doing some boneheaded shit of like going up in this fucking building because like it became like a slum. Like as of 2023, July, the temple at 66 Main went back out on the market because the bank foreclosed on its former owner, Isaac Enzerut, which he like that's a whole literally.
I've got so many news articles on the more recent saga. Should we bring things back? That's the teaser for where we're going to head. There's a lot of a lot of people have tried to do something with this space.
Yeah.
Should we kind of bring people through the life and times of the building a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. Like, I think that's smart.
So, again, this is such a massive structure that, as we were saying, was kind of like a cultural hub for just the greater Binghamton community, right?
Yep.
And one might be saying, like, how the hell did they like need such a big building, right?
Right.
And I was doing a little bit of reading into just the history of the Freemasons and trying to like specifically find information on like the Binghamton chapter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Binghamton Lodge. And more general, the first information I found was, and we talked a little bit about this, but this is like the oldest fraternal secretive order, however you want to describe it, in the world.
Right.
It's super old, but I don't know if it's still the largest, but it certainly at one point was the largest. It still might be. I think kind of all these organizations have dropped off quite a bit in terms of like membership.
Right.
Like I don't know any Freemasons, right?
I don't either, man. Can't say I do.
I was reading, there's like an NPR story about just like the decline of the Freemasons. And in 1959, 4.5% of all American men were Freemasons.
That's fucking wild.
Like this was a huge, huge group. And I think this was from like 2020. Membership has fallen off by about 75% from that. And I actually found a ledger for the Binghamton Lodge from 1902, which is, again, about 20 years before this huge lodge was built. But they had about 500 members.
In Binghamton.
In 1902. In Binghamton. Binghamton alone, right? A lot of different towns in the southern tier have their own chapters,
which you could probably go out on a limb and say that like 500 members in Binghamton in 1902, there's probably like 12,000 people that live in Binghamton in 1902. So that's a substantial number of people that are a member of this organization, right?
Yeah. You throw a speedy and you're gonna hit a Freemason.
I wouldn't recommend it, but if you wanted to, you could totally do that.
So I was reading just a little bit about Freemasons in Upstate in general, just trying to like get a sense of how influential or how big of an organization it was, and I kept getting this kind of crazy story that like with the Freemasons, there's obviously a lot of conspiracies that fly around with them and what they do or what they've done, the influence they've had, to the point where you might cast Nicolas Cage in a movie that depicts them. Right. But this is like absolutely something that happened in upstate New York with upstate Freemasons. Basically, and this is back in the 1800s.
Right.
This came from that same NPR story that was kind of talking about the decline. And they were saying this isn't the first time that membership has declined. It also declined in 1826 because the Freemasons disappeared a man.
Well, time to go.
Yeah.
And that's not a selling point of the organization, right?
Well, so it's the interesting thing too is so this guy, his name was William Morgan. This is like late 1700s, early 1800s, in the town of Batavia.
Batavia, yeah, it's right near.
I got it. First try.
Yeah, usually, I was going to say, we've, with Appalachian, we've stumbled out of the gate.
I'm not going to try today.
Not going to go for that one, but
No.
Batavia, you got that. That's
Nailed it.
It's right near Rochester, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say it's like Western
New York, right?
Western New York.
Yep.
And so this guy, William Morgan, had joined the Freemasons, right? And when you join, you put your hand on a Bible, you're like sworn to secrecy. And William was like, no, fuck that. I'm going to write a book about this shit.
What? Sir.
Right. That's like, aside from being a woman, it's the one thing you can't do.
Yeah. Don't have a vagina and also don't talk about us. And he's like,
Right.
well, half of that I can do.
So he basically partnered with another guy whose last name was Miller, and who gave him like an advance, right? And I'm going to try and paraphrase here.
Sure.
Freemasons got wind of this, so there's like an attempt at burning his newspaper's office.
Okay.
He was then thrown in jail on like kind of made up charges, like basically supposed non-payment of a loan and allegedly stealing a shirt and a tie. Then, which he would have been, the debtor's prison was a thing at this time, right? Miller bailed him out from this jail in, I'm going to try and say this one, Canandaigua. Man, that's a tough one.
That's the home of Danny Wegman and the Wegman Empire.
There we go. So Miller bailed him out of Canandaigua, and then they got him on a supposed $2 tavern bill he didn't pay, threw him back in jail. While he's in jail again, a group of men go to the prison, convince the jailer's wife to let Morgan out, which
how does she have the fucking keys?
Right. Right. But glad she did. They then brought him to a waiting carriage, which arrived 2 days later at Fort Niagara. And shortly afterwards, Morgan disappeared.
He was safer in jail, man.
Yeah, presumed dead. Presumed dead. And the interesting thing is this whole incident, again, he's like trying to write a book on them to kind of reveal the secrets, but his disappearance and potential murder started the anti-Masonic movement as a political movement in the United States. And it took off.
No shit.
Which is fascinating.
And that we can hazard to say is what led to the decline of membership and the decline of the organization, right?
Yeah, well, so that was in 26, and there was like a big dip. This is the only other time there's been a big dip in membership.
Sure.
Which is pretty crazy. Whether they actually murdered him or not, we don't know, but like his disappearance and jailing totally happened.
Yeah, and also like I feel like you build the case of that they had something to do with it, since like as soon as I don't know if it's coincidence that as soon as we found out my man was trying to write a whole book about this, all these trumped up charges started to pop up. He started going to jail, and then all of a sudden they spring him out, and then he's never heard from again. Like,
flash forward 200 years, you can look at pictures of their meetings on Facebook. So I think some of the mystery is gone.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And obviously things have changed a little bit. But yeah, so there's this dip in membership, probably a pretty good dip in New York itself, right?
Right.
If that's where that's happening. But again, by the almost 80 years later, early 1900s, membership's pretty good. Particularly in Binghamton, there's actually a boom of building, like a construction boom around 1922. Again, we were talking off mic. I was reading a lot of newspaper articles about the temple, and in 1921. Which I guess that's when Endicott Johnson is like kind of at its peak, right? Like,
sure, yeah.
And it hasn't started to see its like decline at all yet, right? So like things are looking good in Binghamton,
right?
At that point, but there were 435 building permits in 1921 that were issued. And the building permit for the Masonic Temple was the absolute largest. The total value of those permits was over $700,000, and the singular permit issued for the Masonic Temple was a third of that.
Jeez.
$250,000.
Which like
almost a third of that.
Which like today is like a multi-million-dollar operation, right?
Oh yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was interesting to see that, the planning of this building was tied to this, this real time of prosperity for for Binghamton. And it makes sense. Again, like when you're driving around, that building almost slaps you in the face. You're like, holy shit, what is that?
Yeah.
Why is this here?
I mean, again, it's really like it doesn't like fit around everything else. Like it's just it's almost like Sim City, where like some little kid just like was like, let me put like a rundown gas station, a closed convenience store, and then a community center that's like that no one has ever seen before. Right.
It's Sim City Urban Blight Edition.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like, I mean, it's and again, it is again, we've said it a million times, but it deserves to be said again, that like there is nothing like this in Binghamton, like in terms of architecture. And I mean, one would argue like the courthouse downtown is kind of the same style, but in terms of size, like it's one of the biggest buildings spatially in downtown or in Binghamton, New York. And it's certainly again passed a lot of hands throughout the years. Like there was talk of it becoming like housing for seniors, then it was like,
well, so the Masons were the first people to try and do that.
Right.
Actually, they tried to convert it into apartments. By 1975, the Tri-City Opera had moved to a new theater called the Capri. I don't know if
I have not heard of that.
Probably not there anymore either. But I found an article from 1975 where they were like trying to talk up the Capri.
Sure.
They're also trying to convince people that the whopping increase of ticket prices from $2.50 to $3.50 would be worth it.
Yeah,
people were upset in that $1 increase. A simpler time, but they were trashing the Temple auditorium or theater. Like the seats had bad line of sight. The stage was small. It was a horizontal layout. People who are like close to the stage couldn't see people entering from the wings. Like it's like, all right, settle down.
Yeah, relax.
You don't have to like tear down the everyone's memories of the Masonic Temple. But yeah, it seemed like, with the opera moving on, 1975 could have been a beginning of the
end,
right, where things are kind of starting to move elsewhere in town.
Sure.
And, kind of wind down a little bit for the temple, which now brings us to the more recent storied history of what's been going on in this building.
Yeah.
And it's surprising that it's still there, right? Like a lot of different people have tried to do something with it.
And I think like with that, they've run into, and I saw there was an article about it, is like how much money it will cost to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
The mayor at some point was just like, yeah, it's going to cost you like millions of dollars to even get in the door to then fix it.
Yeah, just to gut it.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you have to like put even more money into it as well. So it's like, I think companies and people who like take on this job of fixing it up then just are like, oh wow, this costs a lot of money, fuck it, and then they're out. So like, as of like recently, Isaac Anzarut, who slumlord in Binghamton, who has had a lion's share of his properties seized, which whole other conversation. But
interesting.
When he did have the building, he didn't lock it up.
Oh, fuck, dude.
Hence why it turned into a flop house for the unhoused in Binghamton. I mean, shit, like if you look at the pictures of it, like it's like covered in graffiti on the inside, and like there's just God knows what. I mean, shit, in 2003, a body of a Johnson City woman was found there several days old in the basement. which like, yeah, this place like, is hence again, another reason why I would not be setting foot in this fucking building.
No. And it's like, after sunset, man, again, it's just in a residential area. Like there's not much going on around it, right? Like it's not remote, but like, man, yeah, I don't want to be in the basement of that fucking place. Like,
nah, man. Anyway, like I was saying, the mayor, Jared Cram, estimates that it would cost, like we were saying before, like tens of millions of dollars just to shore up the building before spending more millions of dollars to renovate it. Now, the mayor, so the bank, Harkness Commercial Realty Group, are the ones that now have the building. So the bank is seeking $400,000 for it. Now
that's the price. Here's the thing: the price keeps going up. I saw a couple different purchases over the years.
Right. One was for like $7,500.
Yeah, 2015, dude got it at a tax auction. John Deal got it for $7,500. And then, couldn't do anything with it. He wanted to make it a music hall and community arts center. And that'd
have been fucking great.
Yeah. Get the bowling alley up and running? Come on.
Yeah, dude. That would have been a dope look for Binghamton, man.
But every single time someone buys it, it gets sold back to Broome County basically repossesses it, and then it goes to a bank, and then it goes
right.
I think Broome County's making a pretty penny on this,
this
property. Just playing 3-card Monte with it.
Yeah, this albatross of a building that seems to be there. What I can say though is Harkness Realty has pledged to better secure it, to keep vandalism out, and clean up the overgrown weeds and trash that are strewn about the property. Because when they say that there is overgrown weeds and trash strewn about the property, that is very accurate. There is a lot. People are just throwing shit there because nobody gives a fuck about it.
To speak to the Freemason craft, I think any other building of lesser quality would have fallen apart.
Right.
Long ago. Like I was on some Reddit page talking, with looking at people talking about this. So like, yeah, it's like built like a goddamn tank. That's why it's still there, right? Like everything inside is gone, or all the furnishings have long since fallen apart or been removed, but like the shell of the building is still there, right?
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, it's like, these were the best of people who were building buildings. So it's like, no wonder that this building built in like 1920 with no sort of like, whatever you want to call it, like upkeep of it once it went into disrepair it's going to stand the test of time. So, I mean,
that seems to be all it's doing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's doing a good job.
And, I do hope, as a Binghamtonian, that like something does come of it, because it is like a historic monument, informal, historic monument in Binghamton. And like it has so much potential. I mean, shit, like I said at the top, it's 60,000 square feet. Like that's an enormous space, and it's one of the taller buildings in Binghamton, like on that side, because you have like the state office building in downtown Binghamton, which I don't know, I think that shit's like 25 stories maybe. It's like that's the tallest building, which side note, like I went in there once for a party on the top floor, and you get to, it's pretty impressive. Like,
look, Binghamton from the roof of this 5-story building, the Masonic Temple, looked awesome. So I can't imagine 25 floors.
Yeah, it was, and it's crazy because you could see like into other towns past Binghamton. So like you could see Johnson City, you can see Endicott. Like you can see like the entire like Shenango Valley, like the west side. You see all of the west side, and then you turn around and you can see the south side because it's a panoramic shot like around all of Binghamton, which in fucking credible, folks, in fucking credible. So that's what I have for our good friends at the Masonic Temple. Hopefully no one is currently in there being horrific and being okay and safe.
Indeed. Well, yeah, that's about all I've got for today. Should we clue people into what we're going to be talking about next week?
Oh my gosh, yeah. We got a good one coming up next week, which I would say our teaser, if you will, off the cuff here is that make sure you bring your salads for next week's episode, because you might find something on top of those salads when you show up.
Or your burgers. I'll say or your burgers, because
you could do that too.
Yeah.
You could do that. I wouldn't tell you how to eat. Come out here, man. Bring your food. Just bring anything. Bring whatever food you want. Actually, you know what? While
they're trying to decide between salads and burgers, what are some things that our speedy freaks could consume auditorially?
Sure.
Auditorially? I don't know.
You feed your stomach, and then you feed your soul with what I'm about to tell you about, which is my comedy album, Upstate Understandings. That, my friends, will feed your soul with laughter. Ha ha. Produced by Rob Adler.
Hey.
I'm on the jokes. Regal Monk is on the intro and outro music. Shout out to Adam Russell for the design of the album art. It's an incredible piece of work, if I have to say so myself. It's pretty dope. So you should definitely go buy a copy of it. It's available at gymsearch.bandcamp.com. So get your ass over there and buy them all. It's the new year. Make a resolution to spend more money at gymsearch.bandcamp.com. That's what I can say for you, to do. Now, you finish, you listen to the album, right? And you're like, God, that was funny. I want more. Rob, is there anywhere that they could possibly go to get more? Where can they go?
They can stay on Bandcamp and pop over to my page, brooklynfrequency.bandcamp.com, and check out my album, which has no jokes in it, but it has some great tunes in it. It's an instrumental album called New York Sticky. It's inspired by disco, go-go, funk, hip-hop, and it's, just some a really nice collection of some pretty good background music. Like, if you feel like doing some urban exploring and you need a soundtrack and you've got your street post, you're ready to bust open some chain links, New York Sticky's your album.
Yeah. If you want to trespass, that's the music to listen to, man.
We go.
As someone who did in fact purchase that album, I can tell you it is very dope. And I brought it to the beach one day and had a really fucking great time listening to it. So also, let's say when you're done trespassing, you want to head to the beach.
There you go. Hey, look, as long as you're at the beach, like before 6 a.m. or after dark, you'll be trespassing. So you can do both. Why not both?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So just know that your soul could be filled with the joy of trespass.
Well, after you're done trespassing and you've bought both of our albums, you should also rate and review our show. If you give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and you throw a review in, a positive review, hopefully, you can also throw in a suggestion for something in upstate New York, or something from upstate New York, or a person, just any kind of upstate related suggestion. You get the idea. We just might cover it on an upcoming episode. So do that. Make sure you also subscribe if you're not subscribed to the show.
Hell yeah.
Share this episode with a friend that needs to learn about the Binghamton Masonic Lodge. And yeah, I think that's all we got for today. Should we wrap this puppy up?
Yeah, man. How are we gonna get out of here? What's our clever pun?
Well,
got anything?
Jim, usually I end on a pun, but you're not a member of the Secret Order of the Speedies, so I can't tell you. I can't tell you. It's a secret.
Doesn't get better than that.
That's it.
Understanding Upstate is a podcast hosted by Jim Search and Rob Adler, edited by Rob Adler, and music from Regal Monk.